Welcome to the video. Today's video, I'm going to be replacing the front brake pads and rotors on a Ford Fiesta with some drilled and slotted rotors. Stay tuned.
Music bed.
Alright, so I'm replacing the brake pads on this car. It's just because they're pretty much about time to be replaced. They're worn out. If you go to Detroit Axle, Amazon sells them, but they usually have the rotors and pads as a package. They do come with some brake fluid, brake cleaner, and it's, you know, they're drilled and slotted, so why not? They're not really expensive if you buy them this way. And so I'm going to show you how to replace them if you have a Ford Fiesta that you need to do this service on. 2011 to like 2019, it's the same process. I'm gonna do this side, it's the same way for the other side. So let's get started. First thing, we're gonna jack up the car, which I already have, and then we're gonna take the wheel off. So 4 lug nuts. These lug nuts have like a flange to hold the hubcap, so take the lug nuts out and the hubcap will come off. If you try to pull the hubcap before the lug nuts, if it's old, more than likely it's going to break the little clips that are on there. So just take off the lug nuts and then they'll come off. When you put it on, you can put the lug nuts and then the hubcap on. Usually putting them on, it doesn't break the clips, but taking them off will. So like I mentioned before, you know, these are the clips underneath and these are pretty much almost all broken. But if you take the lug nuts off, this just falls off. To put it on, it's really easy because they just kind of glide in and clip on. But to take them off, just because they're old and brittle, when you pull it, it's going to break them. So we're going to peel a tire off. This could be a good time to also check your struts, check your tires. I'm going to probably do a tire rotation here. So I'm going to just switch out, you know, front for rears. But just, you know, kind of keep... You know, take a look at everything, see how everything looks. I do have like a little, I don't know, someone might have curved this tire and hit the tire there. It has like a little dash there, but and the wheel looks like it has a couple of bends, so I think this has been curved a couple times. Peel your tire off, you know, check your tire tread depth. I mean, these are pretty close to the end of their life, looks like. So you know, just you're here, why not? So here we have the rotor brake pads. So what I'm gonna do is take off the caliper, these 2 bolts here, and then there's gonna be the caliper bracket. You need to take off the bracket to take the rotor out. If I was only gonna be doing the pads, let's say, you know, we just wanted to pad slap this, you just take these bolts out, slide this part, put the new pads, put it back on. But since I'm going to do rotor, you do have to take the bracket off. You can also take it off as one assembly. I just usually like to separate it so I can lube the pins and everything, make sure everything is looking good. Alright, so let's get started. Bolt here on top's probably going to be like a 12. Yep. Oh, let me get a new battery for this. There we go. So we're gonna loosen these bolts. Junior's here, so put him to change the brake pads. 12 millimeter. These shouldn't be too tight, but they're probably gonna be, I don't know, about probably 30 foot-pounds or so. Take both of these off. Like, you can buy some of these hooks to hook the caliper so it doesn't hang, or get like a wire, just something so you don't let it hang by the rubber hose. It's brought upon. I mean, I don't think it's a big deal, but anyways, at this point you can take off the pads here, and these aren't too bad. I mean, they have about 1/8 of an inch left, but compared to the new ones, you can see they're quite a bit. I could have probably still gotten another easy 10,000 miles out of these. You know, they're not too bad. They're worn out pretty even, so. And then I'm gonna keep track that the squeaker was on the inside. And then now I'm gonna take off the whole bracket here with this inner bolts, which I think they're 15. Yep, 15 millimeter, and then we'll take these out. Okay, so 15 millimeter here. I'm gonna get this little breaker bar because these are a little bit tight. If you're using an impactor, I mean, they're not too bad, but I do have impact and everything, but I usually just like using hand tools. Once they're loose, you should be able to take them off by hand. We're gonna put thread locker on all these. Don't forget to do that. So these are the bolts here. One top, one bottom, and then your whole bracket can come off. So here's the bracket, and I'll show you in a little bit, but it has these clips that I believe the pads have new clips. You know, if they don't come, I mean, checks, make sure they're good, clean them up. And then, you know, the pins, we're gonna take them off and put some new lube in there. So I'll show you that here in just a moment. From here, your brake rotor should slide right out. They do have this threaded bolt here that you can find. I mean, I think this is probably like an M10 125. If they're seized, you can always hit them with like a sledgehammer, a hammer, or thread a bolt in there, and then once you put pressure, it's gonna pop it loose. So I'm just turning the hub here. Everything seems okay. This car makes a little bit of noise, which turning this kind of slightly sounds like there's you know, the bearing's a little rough, but I'm not gonna do that right now. I do have some videos on how to do the bearing on these. If you look, I did on a 2014, which is the exact same thing. You do need a press though, because you're gonna have to press them in, but there's a video on the channel. I don't remember if I did the brakes at that time on that car, but I might have. All right, so we're ready. I'm gonna get my rotor, and then we're gonna start slapping it in, and then I'll show you guys how to clean that bracket. Okay, so I just spray a little bit of brake cleaner here, you know, around the hub and all this. I cleaned the inside of the rotor. Once we put everything, we'll give it another wipe. Normally, I like to put one of the wheel nuts to hold the rotor in place. That way it just doesn't move around. And then you can do that. There are special tools to push the piston back in the rotor. I'm just going to use a C-clamp. When you do the rears, you do have to use the special tool because it turns the piston as you push it in. If you don't turn it, it doesn't go in at all. Long time ago, I found that out. I was in high school and I was doing, actually, after I graduated high school, my first Mustang I had in, you know, on the SN95s, they have that kind of style. So I was just doing brakes and could not get the rear caliper in. I never knew about it. I broke 2 C-clamps. You know, I was putting like a big old wrench turning it, and I cracked C-clamps because they would not go in. I just, you know, and so I asked, at that time I was going to school for mechanic, and so I asked one of the teachers, like, man, I can't get those calipers in. And I broke a couple C-clamps and they're like seized. I don't know what's wrong with them. And you know, he asked questions like, well, were the pads all the way worn out, or I was like, no, I was just changing them out. And he's like, did you use the special tool for the rear? Because some of those you need the special tool. So I was like, no, I did not. So I believe I went to the auto parts store and borrowed the tool, because you can do that. You can borrow it. Pretty much you pay for it, and then once you're done, take it back, you get all your money back. And man, it went right in. I felt kind of stupid, but you learn, right? That's, gotta learn somehow. But I had no idea whatsoever. So I pushed the piston in. I'm gonna spray some brake cleaner here. I'm also gonna use a wire brush just to clean some of the stuff off here. Clean the back off a little bit. Is this necessary? Not really. You can spend a lot of time cleaning your caliper though, if you want. You could pretty much just spray a little bit of a brake cleaner and you should be good to go after that. But want to make sure everything is nice and clean. So it depends on you how much time you want to spend cleaning these. I'm sure after the first few stops they're gonna get brake dust all over them. So alright, so I'm gonna show you all the bracket here. Now I'm checking, like I said, this pads came with new hardware, so making sure they looks correct, and it does. They're all the same. So I'm just gonna take those off, and then I'm really just gonna clean. Well, you really want to clean here where those clips go, where the pads go, right? You want this to be clean. You can clean the whole bracket. If you have like a parts washer, you can kind of throw it in there or whatever. Sandblaster, one of those little cabinets, you can put it in there. Or just use a wire brush and some brake cleaner. You could probably use brake cleaner only if you want, just to get all that stuff cleaned off. But I don't think these pads have been replaced since this car was brand new, so it's kind of dirty. Not like crazy, but it's never been clean. Surprisingly though, when I bought this car, it's a one owner little Fiesta, so that's kind of cool. The young lady had bought it brand new, and she was looking to buy a new car. That's why she She was selling it. And so I had another Fiesta which I enjoy driving, and so I was like, well, since I commute, my commute's about 100 miles round trip, I'm like, yeah, I jumped on it and bought it. All right. So again, we're not trying to make this spotless. I mean, it's gonna get dirty. But what we do want to do is pull these pins out, and then I'm gonna clean the old grease out. If your boots are damaged or torn, make sure to get new ones. Try not to spray brake cleaner inside there because it's gonna, it can really damage the boots, or not damage, but make them expand and really not be useful anymore. So just gonna put some new lube here in the pin. Put it back in. Now usually when you do this, they get air. You can kind of squeeze the boot there so it gets the air out. Doesn't try to just push it all the way out. I kept them one at a time because see, this one has a rubber boot in the end there. So I make sure to put that back in the same spot. Same thing, just squeeze the boot. And then what I like to do here is put some grease where the clips are gonna mount. Grease helps with the squeaking, so you don't want squeaking brakes. Make sure you lube your caliper. Just gonna wipe some of the grease here where the rotor is gonna pass through. And then we're gonna put our new clips in there. And I'm gonna grab some thread locker. And just put some blue thread locker on the threads of the bolts here. So now we're ready to mount this sprockets on here. And then I'm just gonna get my little breaker bar here, cheater bar, and and make sure these are tight. You can look up the torque specs. I'm just gonna line them up to kind of match what they were. So now we can go ahead and put the pads in here. I'm gonna put a little bit of the grease. On the little tabs where they're gonna touch the bracket. And this is just to prevent any any squeaking. You'll be surprised the difference it makes to actually do this. We're just gonna put them in an angle and slap them in. The clip here on these clips are gonna hold it in. And then remember, when I took them off, the inside pad had the squeaker. So I'm just gonna keep it the same way. Same thing, just put some lube here. Make sure you have them the right way. Put them on there. And then before we move the caliper, we're gonna put some lubricant on the piston, so anywhere the metal is gonna touch metal on the pad, and on this little ears too. And same thing, we just want to avoid any squeaking. I'm gonna get my thread locker, put some thread locker on the little bolts here so they're ready. Since we already pushed the caliper piston in, they go right in. Don't forget to pump the brakes a couple times before you take off, because you know the piston's gonna be all the way in. You gotta make sure it comes out. If not, you know, you're probably the first couple times your brakes are gonna go all the way down, because that piston's gotta go all the way down. So. And then tighten this up. And there we are. We can give it one last kind of clean on the outside. Turn the rotor. Make sure there's no grease on it. You're good to go. One thing I'm gonna do is gravity bleed these just a little bit. So we're gonna open the bleeder. It's probably an 11 here. And just open it and just let it gravity bleed just a little bit. If you have a helper, you can always have them pump the brakes, right? But if you just open the bleeder, they should bleed no problem on their own. And then once I'm done, I'm just gonna put the tire back on, or do the rotation tires, and we're good to go. so the brakes are all done. You can take your lug nut off, and now you can put your tires back on. So same process on the other side. You know, the brake bleeding, you can do the gravity bleed and just keep an eye on your reservoir, make sure it doesn't go all the way down, keep adding fluid. But just a good way to get all your old fluid out and then get new fluid in there, especially since if you buy this brake kit here from Amazon, it comes with everything. Might as well do it. So for me, I'm just gonna rotate the tires. Looks like I have to go from that corner over there here. This one goes to the back, you know. So anyways, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, comments, leave them below. Subscribe to the channel. That helps out a lot. We'll see you in the next one.